Sacred Sojourners, a space where we gather around the fire for storytelling.
This is a journey of spiritual awakening, learning to trust in the universe and aligning to our highest path.
It's through our voices from the perspective of the masculine and the feminine, which is the real life dance between us, where we are going to share stories about our journey, our triggers, our love, all as we walk with the universe, not against it.
Zan and I are two souls having our human experience who are walking through the fire together with our three dogs. And now we're inviting you in to witness. If you've been feeling the pull to awaken,
Then you can finally start to trust.
and then to align to your highest good.
Now, you're exactly where you're meant to be.
Hello, and welcome to Sacred Sojourners Podcast. I'm Troy Hawkner. I'm one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Zan Kavanah, your other co-host, and we like to call this Campfire Conversations for the Spiritually Curious because we like to really just have conversations about what's going on in our world. But in this month, we're focusing on the horse energy and burning away illusion because it's really all about awakening and understanding what awakening is. So, have you ever been absolutely convinced, Troy, that
Mm,
you were right, only to realize later that you were reacting from an old wound?
absolutely. Yeah, I've come to understand that quite a bit in the last 6 months.
And we invite you out there to look at yourselves in an area where, you've gone off on somebody or had a fight with your spouse or your family member. Did you actually have that realization that it wasn't the present moment? That might have been something from your past. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And it's very applicable because this recent Taurus new moon has been exposing where we've confused familiarity with the truth and where our reactions became identity. So in our past, our reactions, okay, mine was anger. If you said something that I didn't like, it was pow, you were going to get it back. And I just really didn't understand that. It just erupts from my belly, and I
Mm,
apologize to everybody who's had to experience that. But that became my identity, where the body is simply too exhausted to carry old survival patterns anymore. I mean, I definitely feel that right now, that I just can't. It's like right now with what's happening in the world, right?
mm-hmm.
Our poor little bodies, they're such beautiful machines and they keep us moving forward and we just keep beating on them.
Right.
And I think they're in protest.
Bless God, we ain't taking this no more.
Well, I think that just happened, actually.
Yeah.
So you want to tell what happened?
Well, with me,
Yeah.
starting this episode just a few minutes ago, we were starting the episode. We was not even to the point to where we are now with the first recording, and all of a sudden, I felt this hot wave come up. It started about my waistline and just came up. Was wearing a real thin button-up shirt, and I thought to myself, "Man, it's hot in here." And then the next thing I could feel was it felt like my little thin shirt was a overcoat that you wear out there when it's negative 40. And the heat hit me. And then I felt my heartbeat leave my chest, go up into my throat.
It's never happened to you before.
No, that's never happened to me before, but we're going to be talking about a topic tonight that's near and dear to my heart. It's one that I'm trying to, I don't know if you'd say master, but I do want to come to get to the point to where anytime I am triggered, anytime something comes up in my life that is bringing me to the point to where I want to go back to something in my past and react from that instead of staying in the present moment. I want to stay in the present moment. But tonight we're going to be talking about ego. We're going to be talking about perception and the terrifying realization that your programming may not actually be you.
Yeah. And just briefly to talk about that, we're going to get into the ego, but the ego, it does not want to be seen. And we've been working with Troy's ego for quite some time. And I suspect the ego, for us to do a whole show about it, didn't like it. And your
Right.
body, literally, that's what you just talked about. Like you're too exhausted to carry old survival patterns, and your body basically was just like, can't do that anymore. Okay, I also want to just say thank you for everybody who's been listening. We've been really getting some beautiful feedback about this podcast and how we're doing. And we're just new to launching this and having these conversations. And
Mhm.
you know, it helps us if you like or follow or subscribe. And I hate to say all that stuff in here, but if you would like to share it with somebody and it would help somebody, we would appreciate that because our message is to really like bring that light fire to your own heart. And that's why we have these conversations, these difficult conversations. So thank you for listening. Because this year, this fire horse year, is to move,
Mm.
break free, and burn false identities. And the Taurus new moon, which was yesterday, which in
Yeah.
new moon, we like to create new things. We like to talk about what we're bringing forth. And it says, what is actually sustainable, right? And so, what you guys are realizing right now, and I'd love to get feedback either on Instagram or Facebook from you, but that old coping mechanisms aren't working anymore. Is that true for anybody out there?
It is for me.
Yeah? Like what?
Absolutely. In other words, the way that I lived my life from my old coping mechanisms as
Which is what's a coping mechanism?
coping mechanism is arriving from one of my emotions that comes up. Coping mechanism.
How about emotional volatility is too expensive?
Okay.
That's a big one for me, right? That happened yesterday. If you're gonna snap at me, I'm gonna snap back. I
I'm gonna
do
give it right
not.
back to you.
I,
It was what was yesterday, Saturday night at the fight.
yeah, I just can't have it anymore. Like my body is just like, no. And even though it wasn't necessarily you were just reacting to something that I had said, but I just can't have it. And it's a recognition and awareness that our nervous system peace matters.
Mhm.
Right. We're definitely going to do an episode on nervous system because that's a term that we're kind of coming into more because if your nervous system isn't regulated, your body actually doesn't function like your
Right.
cortisol and all the aspects of your internal organs. And that's due to stress. That's not just like meditating and being zen, but it's also, boundaries and making good choices all around you and, controlling the ego, which we're going to talk about.
Well, you talk about that nervous system. Think about it. Whenever your nervous system is not regulated, it's the same as being jacked up
Mhm.
from stress, and then any little thing will set you off,
Mhm.
and you living in that high tension, which is, I mean, what's the number one killer of heart attacks? Yes. I mean, it's not healthy to be there.
Right, and that's why tackling this topic is so important because the ego is what drives that stress
Yep.
because and the perception. So your identity that was structured from your past is also collapsing right now. It can't exist because we have to all stay in the present moment, which is where all the magic does happen and where you can disassociate from the past. But that's a really challenging thing to do.
Hard. It's really hard.
And we can't go back, right? We don't know fully who we are becoming. Do you feel that?
Well, that's part of the hard part is you're stepping into a different realm of who you are that you've never known.
Yes.
And it's a little bit uncomfortable, but it's also just very intense is looking at yourself. And basically that's what you're doing. You're looking at yourself other than who your inner child used to be.
Mhm.
And you're looking at yourself in the person that's coming to awareness of all that stuff. And you're becoming that higher person that you've always wanted to be in your mind.
Right.
I've always wanted to be this guy.
Right.
Man, I want to be that guy. But becoming that guy and stepping into that role has been very challenging, but it's been it just takes you to another realm of, I want to say, maturity in my walk
Mhm.
in becoming my higher self.
And it can be scary. I find that, it's these old patterns keep looping and in that loop, it's like, I fucking know this loop. This loop is here again. And it's so easy, and we'll talk about that too, but it's so easy just to get into the craving of the emotional loop and to break it and to surrender to it and say, no, I'm going to make a different choice. There's kind of an excitement, like you're graduating kindergarten, if you
Hmm.
will, like to a new level where you're like, okay, I am going to break this because it's been with us for all of our lives. So that's what this this Taurus new moon has been asking of us. And listen, we're not here to tell you that awakening is always going to be peaceful, because more times than not, it feels like you're losing your mind. But that's because of the personality you built to survive
Yep.
is now cracking. Let that sink in. You have created this persona to survive whatever conditions that you were raised in, wherever you grew up, whatever was that influence. And now we're adults and you're living your life, and everybody, you know it. You know it. You know how you react to certain people. You know how you react in certain situations, but you know deep down that's not who you are. That's what raising the frequency in the planet is all about, is starting to have that vision of who you're supposed to be. You're remembering who you are supposed to be, which is great because I kind of made Troy watch The Matrix yesterday
Mhm.
because he hadn't seen it yet. And that's a little bit about what's happening.
Right. It
Um,
was.
well, first, let's talk about perception. Perception is not truth.
Perception is not truth. Just because we have a perception, it does not mean it is absolute truth. And that's one of the things that I have been had to recognize, and through recognizing it, became aware to me that I'm always throwing my perception onto Zan when we get into a situation, and
Which we call projection.
I project it onto her as the absolute truth
Yeah.
whenever.
Oh, yeah.
And, a part of that is me assuming that I know what she's thinking, assuming that I know the motive behind what she's doing.
Well, in the beginning, you did it a lot, and it would make
Mhm.
me crazy because I had a rule about when I would first start dating somebody, which is, do me a favor, judge me for me and not from your past girlfriend or girlfriends, right? Because if
Mhm.
you're in a relationship, in the beginning of that relationship, you're like, oh, this is all nice and then getting to know each other. But then you do start judging that other person based on your past relationships. That's perception. And then that poor person has to deal with whatever the bitch behind me did. It's not my problem, right? Like, I'm me. I'm like, happy go lucky. I got my shit too, like my faults, but please just judge me for me. And that is perception. And you did that a lot in the beginning. And boy,
Yeah.
talk about an ego cracking. I was just like, listen, bro, that is not me.
She talking about, "Bro,
Yeah.
listen, bro." Well, we have some fun, don't we?
But the perception, right, is you thought that was your reality.
Yeah, I thought it was my reality. I really did. In other words, it was in my perception. That was what I thought was the absolute truth. And I've since then I've come to see that my perception is about the size of a Tylenol bottle box. In other words, and out of that box comes my perception. But outside of that box is a whole nother world that
Mhm.
can be absolute truth that has nothing to do with my perception.
Right, but then we hold on to it so
Mhm.
strongly,
So
and
strongly.
then you're wrong and I'm right.
Yeah. I hold on to it as if it's the gospel.
Yeah, it's righteousness, it's
Mhm.
defensiveness, it
Mhm.
is my way is the way, right? It's an inherited worldview. It's certainty. It's certainty. If you
Certainty.
have certainty about something and that person is wrong, just remember that each person was born in their own unique experience. There's no way for you to know what that person
Yep.
thinks.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty righteous of you to think that you know how that person thinks.
Yep. Or feel how they're feeling, what they're feeling. That was a big one with you and I. I would tell you how I knew you was feeling.
Oh, yeah,
Oh
that went
boy.
over well. He got to know me real well in the beginning of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, "No, I
Uh,
know you feel that way." And I'm like,
oh man.
And then I would get super triggered because I would
Oh,
be
she'd be
like,
triggered, boy.
"Listen, don't try to put," because for me, if you try to tell me how I feel, I'm gonna whip out a knife and stab you. Like, that's pretty much how it is because I know how I feel. And I would try to say it to you and you wouldn't even, nope.
Yeah.
And then we get in these arguments over it, and it was like, I mean, once I pulled back, right, and then I got into my ego about it, and then it's like dukes up, but once I pulled back, I was like, "Wow, it's so entertaining that he thinks that he knows how a 55-year-old woman in menopause feels." That's great. Good for you, Troy.
Yeah, let's just hey, I've become much better at that. I don't
Yes.
tell you how you feel,
Yes.
do I?
Yes, you don't. You know what's good for you.
It's good that we can laugh about it now.
Yes.
We've kind of moved past that part I'm still working on other stuff, but the perception, there's a lot to learn there, and coming to understand it will take you so much further in a relationship. I'm seeing that, and it's really been wonderful.
Yes, it has for you having those awarenesses was but that was like so long ago actually it feels
Yeah.
like, and then we get into the ego. So, I'll start by saying that one of my favorite books that and I along Troy's journey of awakening, I've been giving him a series of books to read. And it's great because I won't know when or what I'm going to give to him. It'll just happen. Then I say, okay, it's time for you to read this book. And the book that I absolutely love is Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. And that's where I learned Oprah Winfrey a long time ago did a series with him. And it's all about the present moment, your ego, your pain body. And the ego is not like, hey, I'm this macho guy and I'm so great, right? Or
Mm-mm.
I'm this beautiful
Mm-mm.
woman and that is just the inflated ego, right? That is what we've come to learn it as. But the ego is actually another voice in your head
Right.
that
It's the
that
voice in your head.
runs you and it's constructed. It's not evil, but it is constructed. And so you've picked out a passage from the book.
Your ego, no, is where you take the thinker, which is your mind. We all have a mind. We all think, and we think where we take our thinker to be who you are. This is the egoic mind. We call it the egoic because there is a sense of self, of I, which is ego, in every thought, every memory, every interpretation, opinion, viewpoint, reaction, every emotion. Your thinking is, of course, conditioned by the past.
Right. The ego's job is not truth. The ego's job is survival.
Survival, and it has nothing to do with the present.
No, and that is literally why I think you had that panic, anxiety is because the ego is literally being called out on a podcast to millions of people. One thing that you'll come to learn the more comfortable we get meeting our audience is that Troy and I have a very spiritual experience with the supernatural. We talk about it in the origin story that, Troy is visited by angels and so along with that comes entities and things that happen with our bodies that we know and experience are things that are trying to take us down. And our relationship has been tried to take down many times, and we continue to persevere in spite of the ego, both
Hmm.
of our egos. The beauty about us is that we definitely are very much alike. We're very strong headed and stubborn as we learn through these things. And so the ego, what does it look like, Troy? Like, it's the voice in the head,
Hmm.
for everybody who's listening, we all have voices in our heads, right? That voice in the head that, when you want to have an argument with someone. I had a friend once who said, I used to plan out every argument. I used to like map it all out and make points about it and literally gear up to argue.
Hmm.
That's your ego, defending yourself internally.
Internally, always defending yourself, defending
Mhm.
your rights. When your right is coming from your perception, so
Mhm.
therefore, ego defending it.
How about victim narratives?
Yeah, victim narrative. I've always been kind of famous at that one. In other
Mm.
words, being the victim. Oh, I'm just a screw up. I'm a failure. I'm just,
And in that, think that your ego gets a little bit more powerful, right? It needs to be right. The ego does need to be right. It's there to protect you. That's its job is to protect you.
hmm.
And so we have trained our egos to protect us against what? Survival mechanisms from when we were young.
Right.
Well, now we're adults and we're having these experiences. I don't need protecting from that. And yet the ego will still in that moment. This happened last night. In that moment is no, but you know what? I'm right. And that's not going to work for me. And I don't want that to be like this. And so you'll dig in and get fierce about it. And it's a very tough thing to crack. And we'll
Very
talk,
tough.
we'll talk about that. But the first key is awareness of it.
Hmm.
Resentment loops.
Resentment loops, going back to the whole pattern and continue to do it the way you've always done it. And instead of breaking that loop and doing it a different way,
Right. That comes
not
along.
allowing that ego to have that control.
And it's very challenging to be aware of that. Just stop it in the middle of it. And I'll give you some good pointers about that because it's taken me a long time to get through that. It's funny. I feel like this list is just for us, by the way, that I'm reading, which is about the voices in your head. I always and you never.
Yep, yep. I always, you never. Well, and that's a classic sign of ego because what's it about? I. It's about me. With that statement, it's all about me.
And why do we do that statement, right? Because as kids, we were protecting ourselves. So and we talked about this in my upbringing, there was control. Control is what will activate my ego. If you try to control me, good luck for you.
Yeah, that's a bad day.
Yeah.
That's a bad day in the Hawkner house. Don't try to control Zan. That one ain't gonna be controlled. There's no bridle that fits that mouth.
Right. And so I think that a lot of my mom used to say to me, "Oh, you're just so selfish." And she would project that onto me. Like that was literally the phrase I knew about myself is that I
Hmm.
was selfish. Until later my friends were like, "No, you're not selfish. It's all self-care and taking care of yourself." Really didn't understand the
Right.
difference of that. And so,
Well, that goes back to when you're a child and somebody speaks into your life. As it's being spoken to your life, you believe it, and you
mhm,
believe it, and
right.
you've had to go back to that inner child and unbelieve that, and
Yeah.
unbelieve that system
Yeah.
that was taught to you. You know,
Yeah, that's been fun. So, who is listening to the voice? Is it you? Is it your higher self? Is it your heart?
it is not my heart, and it's not my higher self. It is me.
And it's you thinking that it is you.
Right.
And so when do you think that you first realized like when did you really right, there's a separation between you and the ego, and you know
Hmm.
that now. Like I'm
Hmm.
curious, when did you get that aha moment?
When I Walkers in the Wilderness, when I read her book,
Uh-huh.
and she was talking about the negative thinking.
Suzanne Hannah.
Yeah, Suzanne Hanna,
Uh-huh.
and she was talking about the negative thinking. And as I read that and was kind of chewing on what she said, I realized, the negative thinking is coming from the egoic mind. That ain't at all what I want to become.
Mm,
So that ain't from me.
mm,
And that's why you got to look, okay? When you come up with a thought or you get in a discussion that you got to stop and wait a minute, is that my mind or is that my heart speaking? And that was the waking moment for me, was realizing that almost all negativity comes from my ego instead of the higher self.
right, that's the doorway, right? You were able to catch the story while it was happening,
Right.
right? We talk about that this story that you told yourself, right?
There it is. It's a story you tell yourself. That's the thing about it. Even with the awareness coming in, you got to, at that point, yourself has to make a conscious decision. Okay, am I going to believe this,
Mhm.
or am I going to step outside of what I'm hearing myself, my mind say, and get into, which is the same thing as stepping outside of that perception box and realizing that there is a whole nother truth around what is being said. That was in understanding my ego better. The Lord Jesus said, deny yourself. In other words, what we have to deny is that egoic self, that egoic mind that talks to us and tells us those negative things that is an absolute truth. In doing that, it's when I'm in that ego that I need to be denying is whenever I am in the biggest argument and the biggest fight because bless God, I have to be right. And in being right, the reason I want to be right is so I can control the situation.
Yeah.
When in all actuality, there's nothing I have to control outside of other than controlling who I am
Yeah.
and how I respond. I don't have to control the idiot at work that goes off getting stupid. He wants to be stupid, let him be stupid. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, why should I get high blood pressure because that guy over there being stupid?
Mhm.
I mean, and that was just an example, but I mean, more often than not, it's the ego having to be right in order to be able to control.
Boy, I would pay so much money for your past self to hear his current self tell it that.
Oh, Lord have mercy, boy. Listeners, y'all can tell me and hers had our moments, in
Uh,
coming to understand all of this. And it's just everybody does. Any two people that's in a relationship is dealing with what we've gone through, what
yeah.
we've had to deal with, and what we are still dealing with.
Yeah, because I don't think it ever goes away until you look at it, until you do this conscious work. And
Right.
this is how you become spiritually sovereign. Whether you're in the church or not, you want to be spiritually sovereign so that you can perceive accurately in the present moment
In the
because
present
the
moment.
ego cannot exist in the present moment. If you guys
Nope.
want to like quickie on how to bypass that, stay in the present moment. Look around, look at the tree, look at the ground, look at your foot, look at anything that's going to keep you in the present moment because it can't exist. Where the ego arises when you're driving your car and you're like, God dang, that person over there, they did this to me. And
Mhm.
I'm going to go into the office and I'm going to do this to that like when that brain starts flipping out, you got to stop yourself in that moment. Now,
Right.
that leads us to the next. Did you want to read something?
No, no, I didn't wanna read nothing. I just was gonna reiterate what you said. You know, becoming aware of the ego, awareness and ego can't operate the same space.
Right.
It cannot do it. And in doing that, every time the ego is recognized, it is also weakened. And
Exactly.
we have the opportunity and we have the choice then to make a better decision.
So the kryptonite for ego is
Awareness.
awareness.
Exactly.
Is seeing it, seeing you when you're in that, when you're hyped up in that moment, it's seeing that and being like, and it can be after it happens where you realize like,
Well,
whoa,
more often than not, as we started understanding our egos and realizing that it was our egos that was really at battle, it really wasn't our hearts and who we were and wanted to be,
right,
but it was the egos. As we come to understand that, and in the beginning, we never hardly caught it at first, but it was after the fact. What? Wait a minute,
right,
that's what just happened.
right.
And then in doing that, now we're able to bring it more to the forefront
Well, now we have tools.
now and have the tools to be able to deal with it,
Yeah, which
and we're gonna
will,
talk about some of that here in a minute.
yeah, thank God for the tools. So the now when you're in your ego, that's one aspect. But Eckhart Tolle writes, and this is my favorite, about a pain body. The pain body is accumulated emotional pain from the past that waits for the moments to feed itself. Okay, so think of your pain body as like, for those of you that are over 40, Pigpen from uh, the Peanuts, Snoopy and the gang, that little kid that like went around with like
Mhm.
smoke all around him. That's your pain body. All right. So you go meet a relative, or even you can be in a coffee shop and somebody's screaming over to the side, right? Or somebody's screaming at their dog at the dog park. If your pain body is used to that energy, it will activate so fast.
Yep.
And what you got to do is you got to stop that before it happens. And so, how you do that is you stay in your awareness, diligently stay in your awareness, because it's like if you can just stay in your awareness, then you can observe without judgment, without collapsing the frequency into that egoic state,
Mhm.
right? You can observe, and it's like a free space for you to witness what's happening. But if your ego gets activated, your pain body gets activated, which is generally by another person, then and it takes a lot of skill to be able to do that. I have done this many a times, but you kind of have to know it before you go in. But once you go into it, it's over. And we've talked about this. I like to call it dumpster diving,
Dumpster
because
dive.
once I jump into your universe, our egos are like, gloves on, game on. There is no consciousness. Period.
None. None.
You're just fighting to survive. Your little child is just fighting to survive at that moment.
Right. And I like to think of it like, okay, you got your ego, which it pulls from the past to be able to accelerate.
Yes.
Okay. And then the next thing you got is awareness. And
Mhm.
then past awareness you have the present moment.
Mhm.
And with the awareness, there's where the decision has to come in. Are you going to go back to the past, or are you going to move
Yes.
move forward and just stay in the present moment and not allow the ego to take over?
And it's a muscle.
It's a muscle. It's
That
a, it's a and that's the past has no power to stop you from being present now.
right. But the past, FYI, can look like humiliation,
Mhm.
abandonment, rejection,
Rejection. It can look like, abuse.
abuse,
Abuse is a
criticism.
bad pain body that I have, and that was where I drew the line in the sand.
Mhm,
Once I got to be about 16 or 17,
right.
I would
Shame,
never shame,
shame. I have a big pain body around shame.
guilt,
Not being chosen,
yeah,
feeling unsafe.
safe. Yeah, you got something there too.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so the pain body looks for confirmation, and when that pain body activates, you just stop seeing the present moment.
Right.
You just only look through the accumulated hurt. And it's
Yep.
crazy because, like, you don't have awareness about it, you just react from it. I just really wanna, like, take a moment. Everybody just take a deep breath right now and ask yourself, when was the last time that you reacted, not from the present moment, but from a trigger that was outside of you? And if you look at that, where did that come from? What part of your past was directing your present moment?
Yeah.
Because that is awareness. That little beautiful moment of aha will now seep into your reality where you're allowed to witness it more and more. And now it's kind of like one of those things where you're like, hey, I'm going to buy a gray Volvo. And then all of a sudden you see gray Volvos everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's like that.
Yep. You're able to see it
You are able to see it.
and recognize it and realize it. The cool thing about that, that's where the healing can come in. Now the healing can take place because you do recognize it. You see it.
Awareness weakens identification, right? And so in this Taurus new moon, it's about really letting go of the old identity, right? And you don't have to destroy the ego. There's a lot of places that I've learned from and teachers who said, the ego, there is a healthy ego. And that's kind of keeping you in check, right? You don't want to be like walking down the street and not be aware of somebody who's going to attack you, right? That's your ego having hyper awareness. But think of your ego as like this sphere that's around you, and what you're allowing in, you can have control of that, right? That's the part that you can control,
Right.
because you need to stop unconsciously becoming it. When you just spout off or you go, oh, my dad's just like that, right? Or my mom's just like that, that's just unconscious behavior, and that's not acceptable
Right.
anymore, not where we're going as a planet. That's not how peace is created. You can't have excuses anymore. And I'm sorry, if you go to church every day, you go to the synagogue, you pray, that is not an excuse. It's time for all of us to be waking up from our unconscious patterns.
Right.
And you can't do that until you can identify it. So the moment that you can witness the reaction instead of becoming the reaction, that's when the fire starts transforming you.
Yep.
Because the healing begins the moment the perception is no longer mistaken for the truth. And we know that because we are in the fire
We're in the fire
with you, like as of yesterday.
as of yesterday, walking through it. We are going through it too. Everybody is.
Yeah. And so I'd love to hear some tools from you. And as a man, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you were a hothead.
Hot head, boy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now.
Right. Did you ever?
38 hot right now. I'd go from 0 to 9.25 in half a second.
Yeah. And so knowing that, what has really helped you to kind of like create more of a gap between the explosion and
The other day I told you I think of it like a dynamite, piece of dynamite that
right.
has a fuse off of it about 6 inches long. The thing that helps me cut that fuse in two before the explosion happens, and this has been my biggest help, and I need to do it more. I stop and pause, pause, take a pause before I do anything to think about it. And while I'm in that pause, I take a deep breath. And I focus on number one, the awareness. And in that pause, that has been able to keep me from reaching the explosion. That's been the scissors that's cutting the fuse before it gets to the dynamite. And just stopping just for a second, take a few seconds and just pause. Recognize it for what it is. Look at it. Even as Gabby says, let it know that I see you. I
Mhm.
see it.
Yeah, exactly. If you witness it,
Mhm.
right?
I
That's
witness
the
it.
awareness. If you witness it, the ego can't, it like dissipates. Think of it as a black cloud. It just like goes away. And now
right.
you have the space to choose.
Now the space is there to be able to make the decision that's more becoming
Right.
to whatever the situation is I'm in.
I'd love to talk about a group that I studied with called Access Consciousness. And they were one of my favorite spiritual teachers because they were really practical. I mean, their teachings were just like get in and out and just clear it, right? You remember the old day where there was like, here you have your onion and let's peel all the layers of the onion and get to the center. Like, I
Mhm.
don't have time for that, right? I'm like a practical spiritualist. Like, I want
Right.
to get busy and get going, right? And so the thing that really helped me understand how this is imagine that all of your programming is a bubble.
Right.
All right. So from 1 to 7, so you have like millions of little bubbles all around you. And then from 7 on, and even, as of last week, people who are influencing you, you can take it on as your own and or you can make the decision that, okay, that's mine, right? And so all these bubbles are around you. And when you react, you are reacting from these bubbles. Okay.
Mhm.
So I like to call them filters. Now, one of the things that they do in Access is we have a clearing statement called, and you can look it up. It's called theclearingstatement.com. And it's a clearing statement that will destroy these bubbles. So the clearing statement is called right, wrong, good, bad, pock, pod, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds.
Yeah.
And
Pocket pod.
Pock and pod. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? But what it does is it destroys that point of view because that's all it is. It's a
Mhm.
point of view. You don't want to align, agree, resist, or react to anything.
And that point of view is where your perception comes from.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So when you have a point of view about something, make yourself more important than anybody else. So if you don't align, agree, resist, or react, then you can stay neutral. And that's the awareness that I was talking about that you can stay in that prevents you from dumpster diving. And so your goal is to destroy and uncreate all of these bubbles that are around you. These are the things that are causing your ego to flare and are fueling your ego. So right now I'm going to invite you to think about how many bubbles do you think that you have around you?
Too many still.
It took me
Too
years.
too many to count still.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a new level of destroying my bubbles because I thought that I cleared so many of them, but that was just like baseline reaction. Now I see there's a lot deeper reaction, but I love that because you can just say pock and pod. So what you do is you basically like bring it up. You say, "Okay, I see you,
Mhm.
and I'm going to pock and pod you," which is point of creation, point of destruction. You can literally just say that. And I know that sounds super woo and weird, but it does work. I've
Yeah,
done it on you.
absolutely.
And what happens?
Well, pocket pod. You know what's crazy is I never realized I always even when it first become aware, it was so hard to deal with, so hard to get rid of stuff, get the thoughts, the ego system coming in and taking over. But in pocket potting it, in other words, taking that pause, seeing it, and then pocket pot, it was just another step in the awareness to not allow it to drive me.
Did you feel more space when I would pock and pod stuff?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's funny you say space because that's the way it kind of felt. Whenever you get into a tight space, a tight area, and you almost feel claustrophobic. But through that, in bursting that bubble of whatever the bubble was, the space did open up, and it was easier to breathe. It was easier to respond. It was easier to because you had more space to do it from
Mhm.
more clear space, chaos space.
Right.
Yeah,
Because it's your present moment.
is the present moment. Exactly.
And I think that if you don't have any awareness about anything that we're talking about, we just truly hope that this is shining some light on it because if you're reacting and you don't know why, it's because of that. Because
Mhm.
you got too many bubbles and you're just not aware. That's all it is.
That's all it is. Reacting in a way that you're not proud of. That was me for so long. I
Mhm.
wasn't proud of the way I reacted, but it was the way I had always reacted my whole life. It was the only way I knew.
Right.
And the feelings that comes up, the emotions that comes up from our traumas and that drive us is rerouting that is so hard. It is so hard.
It is.
It
And
is so hard.
I want to, well, it's so hard and it's possible.
Oh, but it's absolutely possible.
Right. We don't want to like scare
No,
you
it's
saying
not
that.
impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible.
It is, but it is hard. I mean, it was even for me last night, right? I want to be in my righteousness because once how the dynamic works is Troy will have a reaction to me based on his past trauma, and I know it. I have awareness of his
Can
trauma.
can we explain that? The reaction
Yeah.
is no more than Troy gets pissed off at Zan.
Yes.
Okay, she just pissed me off, and then I want to get on my high horse, and I'm just
Yeah.
well,
And my nervous system doesn't want to deal with it anymore. And
mm-mm.
so I just fight back and there is no space. It used to be where I'd be like, stay calm. I react, right? So we don't want to align, agree, resist, or react. We want to respond. And that's where I'm working. My work is that pause between it because it's like I just get into it. But then once I'm into it, then it's like fists are up. You are not going to win this. And
Mhm.
I will to the death. But what I want to share with you guys is that I have started to realize that so then I talk in my head. This is a really good fun little thing too you can do. You can actually tell people how you feel about them in your head. So once you understand awareness and you can separate out the ego and yourself, you start to understand how your thought patterns work. You can cuss people out and you can tell them how you feel about them and it gets it out. So you don't have to hold it in and you're just waiting for it to come out. You know those people who I call them conversation stompers. They just like will keep talking and they don't even let you talk. And it's
Right.
just like not even fun. Like such a
And you can't
immature
get
way.
nothing in
Yeah, it's
edgewise.
super immature. Like it's just people like that. You got to pay attention because there's reciprocity in conversation. There's space. You want to, it's a give and a take. But to those people, I will talk to them in my head and I'll be like, why don't you just shut the F up so that somebody else could talk, right? And that's like literally how I'll do. So I have practiced having conversations in my own head with people. And so what I do is I will talk to you in my head and tell
You
you
said,
how I
"But it just
really
a
feel. Yeah.
wedding?"
Oh, yeah. You would love to be a witness to that, I'm sure. But then but then last night, I caught myself in the talking shit to you in my head that I was like, "Okay, this is it. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You wanna win? For why? Why do you wanna win? Why do you want to win? Just surrender. Just give up. Just surrender. Well, you're not even gonna remember this. This is literally what's happening in my head. You're not even gonna remember this. Like, just surrender. What's gonna happen if you just surrender?" And, oh boy, that tension, that grip, if you could see my fingers right now, it's like nails on a chalkboard, like, right? I do not wanna give up. But I'm like, "Okay, just do it. Just do it. Just let go." And then I have the awareness, bingo, I see you. I see you. And then there's like this whole breath moment where I
Mhm.
just think, I did it, right? There's like this reward of like, okay. And then, but then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hug you. I'm gonna like, go over. And I feel like I'm betraying myself. I literally feel like I'm betraying myself to do the right thing. And
Yeah.
that yet when we reunite and we hug, I feel like I made it. I made it to the other side. Nothing happened. Nothing exploded, right? And then more awareness comes in where you realize, good God, I've been doing this for a long time.
Long time. Yeah.
And what has it done for me?
How has it served you?
Not at all.
Right.
How many relationships has this costed me?
Mm.
That is the work that we are talking about. So, is there anything else that you want to add to this favorite conversation?
My favorite conversation, just that, the awareness of my ego, the awareness of my perception not being right, as truth as it may be within myself, but coming to understand that there is a whole nother world outside of my perception. And it's made me and challenged me, and I've become encouraged to sit back and look at what somebody else is saying. And a lot of times we don't take somebody at what they're saying to be their truth. That's been a big one for me with that, with my perception. Well, I don't believe you. Well, just because I don't believe it, don't mean that it ain't the truth.
I'm
And
totally guilty of that.
I have had to really examine that part of it. It's always hard for me to take. Sometimes when I don't know if somebody's telling me the truth or not, it's hard for me to take their truth at face value and hang my hat on it. But in doing that, if I do take a false that they're claiming to be true and I hang my hat on it, ultimately at the end of the day, I don't have to be the one to answer for that. They will.
Well, the beauty about that is that when you have enough awareness in you and all those bubbles are clear
Hmm.
and you're choosing every 10 seconds You're choosing from a clear space. You will be able to feel if that person's truth is or
Yeah.
not.
Right.
I mean, that's just a little bit more of advanced level, but I agree with you. I have a problem with a lot of people's truth, and I apologize in advance for you because I will say that I'll be until I know it to be true, it's very hard for me to take anything as truth.
Right.
And I'm not sure what that comes from.
Well, I look at that, taking your I'm just gonna use you for an example. You've yet to lie to me, so but taking your truth as at face value and
Mhm,
hanging my hat on it is a lot like harboring unforgiveness in my heart when I don't do it. Meaning the unforgiveness don't hurt you, it
mhm,
hurts me.
right,
Not taking your word as truth, I think I'm protecting myself, but ultimately
mhm,
at the end of the day, it's hurting me.
right.
It's not serving the cause.
No,
It's not, becoming my higher self, and, it's hurting me.
thank you for saying that because you have quite a few times not taken me at face value. That's been a theme of ours, and
Mhm.
eventually you do.
Yeah, and it's just, that goes back to past trauma coming up.
Mm,
Bless God, I'm not gonna be made a fool. Bless God, I've already drawn the line in the sand, and I will not cross that line, the wool being pulled over my eyes,
mhm,
and ultimately, at the end of the day, who is that hurting? Me.
right.
It's hurting me. In other words, it's not doing you favors at the moment, but.
No, because I'm just showing up as my loving self, showing you from my heart.
And that's something else I want to say is when you understand that you're working from your perception, which isn't the truth, you think it's true because that's your perception, but that don't mean it's your perception, and it don't mean it's your absolute truth. And when you're working from that, coming to realize that there is a whole nother realm of that truth there. In believing that and taking it at face value, you're actually lifting the other person up. And what is consciousness about? What is the universal laws about? What is the main theme of it all?
Love.
Love, love. If I'm supposed to be with you, we're partners. We're partners in crime. We're the modern day Bonnie and Clyde. I mean, really. And if I'm going to do that, what better way that I can be your partner than to truly love you
And see me
and see you for who you are?
and value.
Yeah, and value it, not take it for granted.
Yeah.
And that's the guy I'm striving to be. That masculine that gives you the space to be the feminine, that
Mhm.
holds the container so you can be safe. And that's what I want. That's what I'm striving for. I want it so bad.
Wow. I'm so grateful to be having this conversation from the first time that we recognized we had a lot of work to do.
I like the way your words at. We recognize we've got a lot of work. But anybody that's listening tonight that's in a relationship, that's what relationships are. Work. They're work.
They are.
Uh, Very rewarding work when it's done right. And
Mhm.
that's what we're talking about tonight, doing it right,
Right.
not doing it from the ego, not using your perception as the
Right.
God
Exactly. And not
is.
being like, okay, you're doing everything wrong and I'm doing everything
Yeah,
right.
that's a number one ego tattletale button right there, just like in NASCAR where they got the tattletale button on the back of the tachometer. All you got to do is mash the button, and it shows you where how hard the motor was turned. Well, you're doing it wrong, and I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
Is the tattletale button.
Yeah.
You're in your ego.
Well, I've been working on that too.
I want to ask you a question real quick. The campfire question I want to ask you is when do you know you're in ego versus the present moment? We've talked a lot about that.
Well, my voice gets raised and my shackles go up and I get just angry.
Angry.
I just react. It's not a common response. It's like it's a reaction. Absolutely 100% reaction.
Hmm.
How about you?
When do I know that I'm in my ego versus the present moment? Just what I just said is whenever I know I'm fighting to be right. It don't matter if I'm right or wrong. Making you wrong don't fix nothing. That it's not my job to fix you.
Yeah.
Who it ain't my job to fix you.
Yeah.
And that's been something that I've had to grasp and
Well,
understanding. It's not my job to repair you and that's my biggest moment is whenever I have to be right.
mhm.
Because why do I want to be right? So I can what?
Be in
control.
control. It's all about control. Because if you
Control.
control your environment, which is an illusion, because that's a joke, ha ha. What is that statement? If you want to make God laugh, decide what you're going to do.
Yeah, make
Make
a plan.
plan.
Yeah,
Yeah. Try to be in
yeah.
control.
What did you see when you stopped managing everyone else's emotions?
Well, I'm still working on that one.
Yeah, I know.
It's actually a recent one that I've been working on, which is it's a pullback and it's a let go. Whoa, that's when I know that the ego is alive because it feels like an octopus with tentacles, and the octopus has been stuck to this wall for a very long time, and somebody took a big clamp and pulled the octopus off, and it's still holding on. It's still got a few tentacles on the wall, and it's like, "No, I can't let go." But there's enough space to realize like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" Like, "What? Just let it go." And so for me, the awareness that's been happening recently has been that space in between the way I used to do it to the way that I want to do it, which is that detachment completely. In that in between, it does feel very scary because it's so new, because I have been that way
Mm,
my whole life because I just had to take care of myself. I had to protect myself and so it's in that space that I have that
mm.
but then nothing happens, right? Like you go through it and it's
Yeah, you think the world's gonna stop, but it don't.
but exactly. And then you're like, "Oh, that's cool."
You're right. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
the aha moment, you know.
Yeah, I think that's what this work does for you. Little baby aha moments
Mhm.
that get you further and further away from the control of your uh past emotions and traumas that had control over you to more freedom and more bliss. I mean, that's where we're going, right? Is the space to be able to be free to choose in every moment what is in front of you in that now moment, not
Mhm.
from all those bubbles.
Exactly. Okay.
All right, are you ready for the fire?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, since this Taurus new moon is asking where we've confused familiarity with truth, where our reactions became our identity, and where our body is too exhausted to carry survival patterns. What are you going to throw in the fire tonight?
What am I gonna throw in the fire? How about this? You said reactions. Reactions is that knee jerk reaction that I come off with that I'm really striving to be. No, in other words, number one, I'm aware of it. I'm able to pause and see it. I'm able to even tell it, I see you, and I'm not doing it this way this time. Bless God, I'm gonna do it different. I'm becoming a higher version of myself, but I want to throw that into the fire. The knee jerk situations. You know me all too well. I've not mastered it. I've gotten better, but I still allow the ego to kick in and that knee jerk to happen to where instead of responding in a loving way, responding in a safe container to where you can still be who you are authentically. I want to throw those reactions away to where I do respond that way to where you can be the Zan that you are and be able to communicate with me in that light
Mm,
instead of having to be the one on the eggshell and tiptoeing around
I appreciate that.
because that's not a safe container.
No, I appreciate that. And now that we're being super vulnerable, I'm going to put in the fire that I have been trying to help you with the spiritual growth, but I think that's been bleeding into what's also my discomfort. And so there's like this space where I'm trying to hold my boundary, but then also like protect myself, but then also like teach you, and it's getting convoluted, and I'm seeing that I'm saying too much, and it's a struggle for you because you're trying to be something for me instead of for you. And what I'd like to do is just observe more, allow you to be, and not me too, not react to those times that are challenging, and be able to communicate it in a way that can be received and not in that moment, because that moment is when the ego's hot. Maybe we'll just do like a little suggestion box for each other.
Yeah,
For
and
things.
I'm glad you said that. That's when that ego's hot. And you think about it, the lady that you asked a question to the other night. When that ego is hot, what's the best thing we can do during that time? Grace and space.
Ah,
Extend grace and give space.
yeah. There's a amazing woman. I think her name is Lori Riesling. And we're going to talk to her tomorrow night and see if she'll come on our podcast. And if she does, you guys are in for a super treat.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's creating that space and deregulating and helping your nervous system. I mean, this is a lot for you guys. I hope it's not too much. I hope it's not too overwhelming. We would love your feedback on our talks because we're just sharing what we're going through. And I've been in the conscious world for over 20
20
years,
plus years. Yeah.
and you being new to it, but I feel like I'm new to it again because I studied it for a long time. I had the water company, Aqua Mantra Water. I lived that for 10 years. I was like in it deep. And then I took off and traveled for 10 years.
Invite.
And so I haven't come back to it firmly. But this podcast has been opening the doors for me to rediscover more of my own spirituality and all these deeper truths. And it's beautiful. It's great. I have always just strived to be the best version of a human that I can be.
Right.
Although this experience has been intensely challenging, it has also been rewarding because what else is going to break through to you unless you're in relationship?
Yeah.
You can't do this work on your own.
It's the mirroring.
Yeah. And it's the constant mirroring.
Constant. But it's very rewarding.
I hope that we have a podcast one day where we're just like, and we're awesome. Everything's great.
Well, we'll be podcasting a long time. We've listened to too many people, Michelle and Brian, Heather and Jason. I mean, all these folks are just in the same boat, been together for years, and they're still working on it. We know,
Yeah.
and it's very encouraging to me to be able to have the testimony of people who are still doing the work and seeing the beautiful relationships that they have. And that's ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, is becoming the beautiful people that we're called to be.
Yeah. So the invitation out there is even if you're over 50 and you're starting to date, don't judge. Don't throw people away right out the gate because, they're not matching where you're at. Everybody's on their path. What you want to look for is their soul. Are they
Mm.
good? Are they a good human? Do they have love in their heart? Yeah, they're going to have traumas and triggers, but keep listening, keep searching, keep following your own intuition and guidance. This is the now time for that to be accelerated, evaluated, and in the fire. It'll be so great for your insides as it just burns
Mhm.
through all of those illusions. Like way back when, it took years for you to do this, but now things are moving rapidly. Everybody's kind of waking up. It's like a common theme. I'm seeing it like everywhere. And so, what better time to do that? But everybody's a beautiful being of light. Everybody is a beautiful human, even though they're operating from their inner child or their traumas. Don't throw people away just because, you know, they don't look good on your phone or for whatever. Like, really look deeply because I think if Troy and I had given up, we wouldn't see the gold that's at the end of the rainbow, because we're both really good, awesome people. We're just moving through some difficult past stuff. Bubbles. We're getting rid of some bubbles.
Getting rid of bubbles.
Thank you so much for listening.
Yes.
And we have a guest on our next podcast that I am super excited to share with everybody. She's a friend of mine. She's an astrologer, and we're going to learn all about a deeper level of astrology. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for listening.
Yeah. Really appreciate it.
Love and light
Ease and grace.
and peace and blessings. May you walk through the fire to find the truest inner authority of you.